Okay. Okay.
Namaste, viewers. Welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA. I apologize for being a little late today. Some technical hitch one way or the other, but that always happens sometimes. Please bear with us. Thank you so much. To begin with, wanted to also mention that you know uh, this is very important program today. We are talking about conversion, forced or free. It has a lot of ramifications for us in India, as we are witnessing it. It's a very serious issue. To discuss this matter, we have greatest of pleasure in welcoming Colonel RSN Singh. And Colonel Saab, welcome to the show for the first time
Thank
on Jaipur
you.
Dialogue USA.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please request to the viewers, please like, subscribe, and share the channel with others as we are trying to change the narrative from awakening the people from wokeness to awakening. So that's one of the important objectives here. So, Colonel Saab, this particular conversion issue is going on for a very long time. And this is a serious issue for India, particularly. And what do you think are the implications of the way it is happening at this point in time?
Firstly, am indeed thankful to Vibhuti Sahab, you personally, for giving me this opportunity to talk on a subject which, as you rightly said, is a persistent and a pernicious problem, I would say, and persistent, pressing, and pernicious. It has reached dangerous levels. I am Yes, I am sitting in Patna, Patna, and I belong to Patna district. And well, I never thought that this district will be invaded by the missionaries in such a in such a magnitude. Areas where I mean, churches have sprung up in areas where it was least expected. I was just in my village a few days, 2 3 days back, and then I saw this phenomenon. And it's let me tell you, it's not out of any monetary greed, I would say. Maybe that may be one of the case, because economically, I mean, this district is very well off. So is most of India. I mean, there's no house where you will not find a television or a motorcycle, and especially the people who are converting. A large segment of them are they have made a kill, out of this liquor business during prohibition, because they make this local liquor. So there is no, I mean, money is actually pouring in, and I'm not exaggerating. So I don't know how this phenomenon has come about, but I can dare say that this has happened, probably with the tacit, encouragement of the dispensation here. Both they are very much indulgent towards, the Islamists, and as well as the church. So, having said that, now you asked me that how serious is this problem? Well, as I said right at the beginning, this is a persistent problem, and actually, there is a theological war being waged against India, not from now, for at least 2 3 centuries now, and well, it has taken its toll. If I had wrote this book, Know the Anti-Nationals, and in that there is a chapter I have written, Theological War That Tears India. I've given a true story, and wherein I have pointed out that a person called Ellen Chow from the USA, he was he belonged to the church in somewhere in Kansas, in the United States. 27-year-old man, he uh, uh, prepared himself to come to Sentinel Islands in Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. Now the Sentinelese are people who have not, who have always shunned civilization. The Indian government does not allow any sort of, interference in their life. And as the, rule goes, as the law goes, you cannot go beyond, short of, you can only go short of 500 meters, from that island. But this gentleman, having, prepared himself with, 13 kinds of inoculations in US, to protect himself, from various kinds of diseases. He comes here and in disguise of a fisherman travels all the way to Sentinel's Island. And then, he jumps off with a Bible on his head. And what has happened of Alan Chow, we don't know. We don't know whether he's alive or he's dead or alive. But there are two, three important questions, of this incident. That look, here is a man who traveled all the way, from USA and to a remote island, and this is what is called missionaries' jail. We talk about, and what has he come for? Because he feels that the Indian government has not been able to extend dharma. Well, I mean, it is not in the definition of church, but they have not. We have not been able to civilize them. So it is the bounden duty of, of a Christian to civilize these people. And he comes all the way from Kansas. And what is it that that brought him here? As I said, missionaries deal. The second is, as I said, that he felt that the rest of the world is, totally uncivilized. And Andamans. Now, let me tell you that in strategic terms, it is a floating aircraft carrier. The Indian government is investing a lot of money and resources in developing those islands, because even from point of, not only from maritime, otherwise, from maritime imperatives, but also because from the imperatives of maritime terrorism, it's a very, very important group of islands. So physically, the government is doing everything to protect those islands. But look, here is a man who has come all the way and tried to launch a theological war against India. There is another, during when this happens, there is another, story which I gleaned from the newspaper, and it's totally opposite. An inhabitant of Andaman Island named Amrit Kujur. He he was in the business of providing, uh, items of normal consumption, like water, cigarettes, etc. in the mid seas to various vessels. So one day he sets out on his boat, laden with almost goods worth 5 lakh rupees, and then he faces a furious storm. His boat starts drifting away, and he is without diesel, and that is when uh, he encounters a Burmese ship, and the Burmese ship never asked for the religious denomination of this man, and he is accompanied by another colleague, Divya Ranjan. So the two of them were there. They gave him about 200 liters of diesel. Uh, but unfortunately, they were met by another storm, lost everything, and then they again started drifting. Divyaranjan, uh, finally, he succumbed. He died on the way. And uh, this gentleman, Kujur, he drifted almost 1,000 kilometers to Orissa coast. There, he was when the villagers or local villagers discovered him. He was totally, they gave him up as dead. But somebody said that no, there is life in him, and then they nurtured him back to health. They never asked him his religious denomination again. So tell me, sir, who is more dharmic, Ellen Chow or the people of Orissa?
That's a very, very valid point, and your insights, being having been in the intelligence, is absolutely remarkable. And what worries today, you are from Bihar, so am I, and I studied in Netarhat. So if you recall, Netarhat has a 25% reservation for SC, ST, and in the Santhal area, Netarhat area, we saw a lot of tribals who were Christians. Four of my football players, sportsmen in my batch, they were all Christians. Now, that's a different issue, the conversion. What is important here is to find out the rampant way it is going on in India. It almost looks like that India is a happy hunting ground for anybody and anything. And the religious conversion which is happening is achieving dangerous propositions. And I, at the moment, thanks to technology, we get to know a lot more things in much faster way. So, for example, the way it is happening in Punjab, I mean, it is Sikhs are converting to Christianity. It's happening in South, and they're doing some miracle scenes doing there. People walking away from wheelchair, and people going into an epileptic, trance. That one man touches one person, and that person goes into a trance of some sort. Isn't there some mechanism to confront that and call the evil in the manner the way it is? What is preventing us? And there is one more argument that you talked about, that people in Patna district, they are well-off people. So there is other argument that goes on, that the people who are converting are poor, destitute, who have no life left in them, and these missionaries go to them, and they convert them with the help of a rice bag or a potential future. Your thoughts on these several issues that I raised with you just now?
Actually, you have raised too many issues, but uh, I being from the, I being a security and a strategic analyst, I would just tell you the consequences on the security of the country.
That's right. That's what my
Just,
entire focus is. What is the
just,
consequence of this?
no, 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 I'll come to other aspects also.
Sure.
A port is being constructed, a deep sea port, a place called Vizianazam in Kerala, right, sir? Now, this is a deep water port. I mean, the depth is almost 10 meters depth. It can, and further dredging is going on. It's very suitable, given the type of tides, is very suitable for dredging. And it can handle, very large vessels. So, this is the first transshipment port which is being constructed in India. Now, what happens in a transshipment port is that smaller vessels, they bring their goods and containers, and it is loaded onto those larger ocean-going ships, and thus, India does not have a deep sea port or transshipment port at the moment. They have either this activity is carried out in Colombo or Dubai or in Malaysia. There's three places it's being done. Thus, we are parting with a lot of valuable foreign exchange. So this is a port, I mean, which can change the entire maritime trade scenario in India. Mm, As you can gauge, it has got a lot of promise. It will provide a lot of employment. The turnaround, given the facilities that they are creating, the turnaround of the ships will be much faster. Now, such an important project, such a big asset that is being created, country. Do you know the church there, the Latin church that is active in that area? Some 13 priests, Christian priests, they, under their leadership, there was a big agitation to stop this project. And this is not the first time that this is happening. Obviously, they do not want this project to go on because they want someone else to, uh, uh, someone, some other power to benefit. Now, remember 2011 Kundakulam project.
Yeah.
Same thing had happened. It was the church which was at the forefront. And then you have this sterlite, copper plant that was there in Tamil Nadu. The church stopped it. And the judiciary colluded with the church. Sir, 40% of India's copper requirements was met by this sterlite copper manufacturing plant. It came to a halt. Then in the Chhattisgarh area, I'm just giving you a few examples. Chhattisgarh area, in the deep forest in Abujmad area, it contains a lot of rare earth material over which the Chinese have monopoly. So that is why the church has struck nexus with the Maoists there. Obviously, at the bidding of some external powers. So this is then Manipur. Manipur is sitting on a lot of oil, and I've been following this. Their NGOs, they have come up with some concept called extractive agitation, something of that nature. And they have not allowed any exploration to go on. To the extent I remember that they were training people in this activism, coming to India, going right up till Manipur, and training them in this kind of activism. When the Indian government stopped it, they called some 2 dozen people to Thailand to train them. Then, sir, Meghalaya. Meghalaya is sitting on some of the best quality of uranium in the world. The church hasn't allowed you to take even an ounce from there. That is what the church can do to hurt your national interests and to undermine your security. So this is one aspect. The second aspect you asked me was uh, about conversions going on. You told about your schoolmates who were excellent players, sportsmen. I served in the Bihar regiment, and 50% of our troops were Adivasis from that area. Again, excellent sportsmen. The 1980 Olympics hero, Silvanus Dungdung, was from my unit, and we had any number of international players in our unit.
Right.
But what happened is that Birsa Munda he's hailed as a god. He's hailed as a god in that area. He came from the Munda tribe. But this fact that he fought conversion is conveniently ignored by our historians. He had converted to Christianity, and then subsequently he left that faith and started fighting against that. Please read about Birsa Munda. Now, this is how we manipulate history. You asked me about the uh, the ingress of Christianity into Punjab. Well, it doesn't surprise me. I was in a border area. I still remember somewhere near Gurdaspur, and I saw a lot of churches there. One place I remember they had a big church, was a village called Malmua, right on the border fencing. Now, what has happened, sir? Why people are are being seduced uh, by by Christianity? Probably in Punjab, some some elements who, should I say, a sizable segment of the Sikh population, no, a very important segment of the Sikh population, they hijacked Sikhism. You know what which segment I am talking about, and they killed spiritualism. It killed spiritualism, like, as far as Sikhism is concerned. Sikhism is since it was born out of the Bhakti movement, it was a very, spiritual movement. But they killed spiritualism. And when you kill spiritualism and you honor and celebrate people like Bhindra Wale, I mean, that this is uh, that is something, if he is the poster boy of Sikh spiritualism, then you can yourselves imagine that where things have gone. And that is why, people, you say that you have this Dera Sacha Sauda, uh, people may abuse him, but has anybody analyzed that why has he so much, how has he managed to have so many followers? Because there is a spiritual vacuum. The Gurdwaras, they have been, have been uh, invaded by, a segment of this, the same segment of Sikhs I'm talking about. They have captured the Gurdwaras. As a result, many of the, these people, there is a, they in some stratas, people are not, they don't get the same kind of treatment in the Gurudwara, so that they have drifted. They are looking for an alternative spiritual force, and this is what has happened in the tribal areas which you were talking about, sir. If I may say that if the RSS would not have been there, things would have, in the tribal areas, things would have been even worse.
But tell me one thing, tell the audience and share with us your thought about, you talked about Sikhs' spiritual heritage has been stolen away. There is a vacuum there. And, SGPC, some people believe that SGPC is full of Khalistani elements. It is also tricky to mention that name because then we become, as if we are talking against them. But the issue is that if somebody doesn't talk, what happens? Now, the freedom of religion itself is an issue. It's a global issue. How does freedom of religion allow conversion? Is there a clash or is it a togetherness of the whole thing? Is this concept being used, abused, or used in a selective way? Because we don't practice proselytization. Hindus don't. We don't ask anybody to convert. So I will go back to my previous question was, has India become a happy hunting ground for all kinds of people? We don't see this happening anywhere else but in India. So what is it about India that attracts everybody to convert people to one form or the other?
Definitely the wealth. It is the wealth of India. As I said, it's a theocratic war. Invasions. Invasions mean there is a physical side to invasions, but there is also a theocratic side to invasions. What is a civilization? A civilization, in its core, has religion. The most important ingredient of a civilization is religion.
Right.
So what has happened is that, since India was invaded, so, out of sheer frustration, this Bhakti movement started. Lot of, sects, sprung up uh, out of sheer frustration. And when you were talking about Sikhism, well, one thing I must certainly, I may say that the Christians, they don't hide their Bible. If the Bible says that the earth is flat, they go by it. They may not mention it, so openly, but the Bible does say that the earth is flat. And even in the United States, there is a big society. The earth is flat society. You'll be horrified to know that I know of a pilot, an American pilot, who still believes that the earth is flat. So they don't hide their, conceal their, mazhabi book. And nor the Muslims are uh, apologetic about Quran, those parts that are objectionable to you and me. They are not apologetic about it. But on the contrary, what these Khalistanis have done is that they have mutilated their religious books. They have been totally disloyal to their scriptures. I'm talking about these Khalistani elements. They go to the extent that Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, the word Gobind, was some other Gobind, not Krishna.
Oh
They
my
have
God.
gone to that extent. They have expunged all those references of Chandi and other that Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj wrote about. This is nothing but inferiority complex. The Christians haven't done it. The Islamists haven't done it, but the Khalistanis have done it. And if you disown your scriptures, God save you. All your life and all your generations, you will be living under this spiritual vacuum. And when there is a spiritual vacuum, obviously, you become anti-India, you become anti-humanity. Anybody can buy you for any price. Anybody can make you, bomb an Air India aircraft. Anybody can make you collude with the ISI. Anybody can, make you, uh, what should I say, abuse India on the Western soil. This is what is happening. But I must also tell you, sir, that when I'm talking about the strategic and the security part of, look, it is what some things I told you, Kundakulam project and this, deep sea project, and still these are few examples I just gave you. Now look at our neighboring countries. Pakistan. What has happened? Pakistan. Most of these people in Karachi and Lahore, in these areas, those who were doing this uh, menial job of cleaning the drainage system and toilets, they were all Hindus.
Right.
They are still there in very large numbers, right? In Lahore, they all converted to Christianity, most of them. And there is a Yusuf Nagar in Lahore. But their lot hasn't changed. It's only in Hinduism. Let me tell you that we have had a president, we have had uh, uh, a Chief Justice of India. And by the way, when I'm talking about the Chief Justice of India, uh, well, there has been a Chief Justice whose parents were Christians with Christian names, but he chose to declare himself Hindu so that he could take advantages of the various kinds of preferences or quotas that are provided by the Hindu religion. And once he did that, his his climb was rather very fast.
Hmm.
He climbed the ladder very fast to the extent that uh, when his name first came up for the Supreme Court judge, he would have been a Chief Justice for 7 years. But who knows? Who knows? Somebody, he might have been infiltrated in this man. And
That
when
that
you say
brings,
that,
that brings to another question, sir. Sorry to interrupt here. It's a very important one. Like I said that India is a happy hunting ground and whatever else. But this forced conversion and freedom of religion to convert or adopt any faith, this part of the world, that is the Sanatan philosophy, pray to whoever you want, whatever you want, how many ever times you want. But how does this bookish thing come into play? And that becomes a very regimented kind of a mindset. Take the example of Khalistanis. What bothers me, what baffles me, is the fact that these Khalistanis are supporting an ideology and taking help of an ideology whose people boiled the gurus, killed the children of gurus, and have annihilated so many of their Sikh gurus. And they are going to the same faith for helping to establish Khalistan. It beats my mind. There has to be something much more seriously deep seated to create that kind of a hatred for things India, things Hindu, the most peaceful community in the world. What is it about that drives people from our faith to accept that part of it? We know that poverty is one of the reasons for people converting. You have said that poverty doesn't exist anymore. It is the well-to-do who are converting. Where is the mix? It's a totally confusing scenario. The way it is happening, they perform miracles. They do shows in Punjab and Kerala, Maharashtra, everywhere. It's a very sad situation that even the Christian world doesn't see that this farce must stop, because this is also ridiculing the faith that comes to convert our people to their faith. Your thoughts on that? And the security implication is serious. I mean, I personally believe that it has severe security implications for India, and the examples of which you gave many of them.
no, I was, yes, I was just giving you some examples. So I was telling you Sri Lanka, and I was very closely, I mean, I'm very closely associated with, that problem, the Sri Lankan problem. And well, those days, there was a lot of secularism in our discourse. But the fact of the matter is that the Sri Lankan problem was a problem of the church. Most of the people, most of these, cadres in Tamil Nadu, sorry, no, in the Jaffna Peninsula,
Right.
including Prabhakaran, they were all Christians. You see the leadership. And that is the reason they were being given, refugee status in various countries like UK, France, Germany, other places. Now, how was the LTT crushed? Once the Sri Lankan government managed to split the LTT on religious lines, that is, they weaned away this fellow Karuna, that
Yep.
they
Yep.
call, Trincomalee cadres. That is
Mm.
how they managed to do it. But it was the church problem. Then you come to Nepal, sir. I wrote the book called The Unmaking of Nepal, and I traveled. I traveled very extensively in
Mm.
that. When I was writing this book, and I traveled from Tarai. And when I reached Kathmandu, I knew some people there. I interviewed people across, across the spectrum. All politicians of all shades, including the president of Nepal. So one day I was just roaming on the streets of Kathmandu, and I see an embassy of Norway, embassy of Finland, and I got a little intrigued as to, I mean, what are these countries? Why should they have an embassy here? Britain, understandable. US understandable, because a lot of Gurkha troops, serving in Britain. But then I tried, when I delved deeper, I found that these fellows are supporting the Maoists in China just to topple the government, to bring them to power, so that, because anti-conversion laws in Nepal were very, very strict during the monarchy. And I, for one, am convinced that they, as you say, as you said, that India, such a fertile ground for conversion. They thought that Nepal is even a much more fertile ground than India, which is, but the main obstacle is the monarchy. So it is my assessment that it is the church colluded with the Maoists in killing the king of Nepal. This is a breaking news I am giving.
My goodness. My goodness.
So and this is, and the first thing, when the interim government came, the Maoists, when they formed the interim government, the first thing that they did was to change they uh, changed the Hindu nature of Nepal. That they declared that it's no more a Hindu state, and thereafter, it was the field was open for rampant conversion, and it is taking place in Nepal. And let me tell you, it is not the Chinese, sir. The leftist forces, ultra leftists, are more active in the Western world, that is the United States and Europe, and especially in your Chicago. The organization called Revolutionary International Movement, which is the apex of our organization of all these ultra left radicals. They have deep nexus with the church. Now you ask me a question as to why they feel, and you said, forcible conversion. No, as far as Islamic conversion was there, that has taken place in India in our history. That was primarily or overwhelmingly based on force, not Christian conversion. Christian conversion is by allurement, duplicity, deviousness, fraud. Now
Fraud,
look at the fraud. Pardon?
fraud as well. How do
Yes,
you
fraud.
how do we define that element of fraud? Because that's
The fraud,
serious.
fraud. What I'll tell you, fraud. I'll tell you, and what I'll give you an example. This is one example. I give you a recent example of this fellow called Alan Chow.
Mhm.
In say 1570s or something, there was a fellow called Robert D. Noble, a Portuguese.
Yes.
Now he came to Tamil Nadu, and what he did was that it was very difficult for him to crack the nut. Here, people were very, very obstinate as far as their religion was concerned.
Yes.
So what he did was that he became a Hindu priest, right? He first became a sadhu, then he became a kshatriya, then he had a big choti, and then he started wearing a dhoti, and he became a priest. Then he said that I am writing the fifth Veda, and the Vatican denounced his method. But later on, his method was declared to be the best and most successful method. So you come down now. What is happening? The missionaries come. Earlier, I was also here in Patna, St. Xavier's for some time, and most teachers, they had Christian names. They were all Indians, but they had Christian names. But no more. Now You may carry your name as some Ram, and you will still be a Christian. You must have heard of a fellow called Ralia Ram, K. Ralia Ram. He was a great supporter of Jinnah. ठीक है ना?
That's right.
So,
Right.
yeah. So you may have your name as Aparajita, you may have Samyukta, all these names you may have.
Hmm.
But what they do now, where is the fraud? They will say that you will all go to hell. ये जितने ये ये लोग हैं जो ये देवघर जाते हैं और मंदिरों में जाते हैं, ये सब सब हेल में जाएंगे. ये राम वाम सब बकवास है. बट नाम वही है सर. They haven't changed the name. Now, is Ram merely a name? Is Aparajita merely a name? This is what these fellows have done by the fraud. They have created an identity crisis. They have tried to rob the civilization out from these people. This is what the missionaries have done. They have created a huge identity crisis, and the method that is employed to convert them into Christianity is first by creating hatred for their ancestors, for their religion. So and this is what I'll just read out what Swami Vivekananda had said. Swami Vivekananda had said that every man going out of Hindu pale is not only a man less but an enemy the more. वो आदमी देश का जो अपने पूर्वज का दुश्मन हो गया. A man who becomes inimical to his ancestors, his forebears, how can he be loyal to the country? It's
And
all
that,
based on hatred.
and that is the reason when you notice that the people who convert, they become even more rabid anti-Hindu. They are more anti-Hindu. They are more vocal in their hatred for things Hindu. And that brings me to another subject, sir. Now, knowing what we know, I mean, it's no longer secret. The deception, the fraud, the incentivization, all these things are going on. What's the government of India doing? I'm not talking about the Sonia-led government. I'm talking about the Modi-led government. What is happening? Does this matter bring us into a conflict with the concept of freedom of religion itself? Where do we go from here? The question is, where do we go from here after knowing what we know?
I think India is one of those countries, which was battered by both Islam and Christianity. And it's fighting these elements is very, very formidable challenge. May I tell you, sir, because of these long rule of the Islamists and of the British here in India, uh, there are a lot of structural assets, lot of structural assets that these fellows have inherited. The Christians and the Muslims, and that is why you have the work board with huge properties. But same applies with the church as well. The church has massive properties um, everywhere, in every city, every small town. You go to Varanasi, they have got some of the best properties there. You go to Ranchi, and they're running commercial complexes on the complexes on those properties. They don't even need money from outside. They're generating enough money, by commercial activities within the country. So that that
Bless
sorry.
you. Not at all.
So they don't need money actually from outside. Now what has happened? The important point is that when this transfer of power took place, and Indians, the British left, vacated those bungalows, and the Indians moved in the same bungalows. Uh, their style of working was same, the English type was same. Uh, uh, Ram Singh continued to be the Chaprasi. Um, uh, Earlier he was Chaprasi maybe to John Sahab, uh, but later he must have become, Chaprasi to some, uh, say, some Singh Sahab or Pandey Sahab or whatever it is. So this is what happened. The institutions remained the same, but Saint Xavier's, Saint Joseph's, all these, Michaels, all these Francis. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that having a school in I'm a product of that school. I mean, studied for at least for 5 years. Francis Xavier, he was the man who introduced that, what is there is a term for it, this punishment for people who relapse into Hinduism, after conversion. Yeah, yeah, that's and very tormenting punishments.
Yes.
He was the man. There is a particular term, some quote, I'll just slipping out of my mind. That fellow was a barbarian. You read the history. The Portuguese rule in Goa, at least 200 years, was very, very barbaric. Yeah, this is called Inquisition Court.
Inquisition. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, that was brought by this fellow called Francis Xavier from Portugal. And you go to some of these, go to the museum in Goa, and what contraptions they had made to punish people.
Right.
So that was one, sir. The uh, the uh, uh, the other thing what happened in India was that the UPSC was came into existence, and they started holding exam, and I can say that for many years, and even now they the selectors in the UPSC, or the pattern of exams in the UPSC, was heavily loaded in favor of people who could handle the English language. If you wrote your history paper in Hindi and if you wrote your history paper in English, there will be a marked difference.
Wow.
This and people, very successful people. I was talking to a boy who got the 12th highest marks in interview, and he told me, sir, they're totally biased towards people who speak English. Now this is what happened. So what these missionaries did, did was, because they had inherited so much of structures from the British period, in terms of schools, land, and etc. They created an apparatus of bureaucrats and judges, right, judges of the Supreme Court. They take a lot of pride that I'm a product of St. Stephen's College.
Yeah.
They never talk about that 50% reservation for the Christians. It's a minor. I mean, they say it's a minority institution.
That's right.
So what has happened? That they created this infrastructure, and that that infrastructure further facilitated conversion. After all, a person who has studied in St. Stephen's College, you expect him to stop conversions in India? He has got a job by fraud. By fraud, I mean by the fraud of this English language. Sir, I have absolutely no issues if an English language is lingua franca. As long as a language is a connecting language, language that connects, that is what is lingua franca.
Right.
But the language cannot, cannot be a tool to size you up. English language cannot become a tool to instill a sense of inferiority complex in the people. And that is how That is how the missionaries have been successful, because somewhere people feel that ye Christian hai, ye humko Angrezi sikhayega, and with English you can achieve anything. And let me also tell you, sir, Christianity and science are poles apart.
I would say not Christianity alone. As a religion is antithesis of science and
Yeah,
technology.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
For example, no. For example, I'll tell you. The Quran says the earth is flat. The Bible says the earth is flat. Now you tell everybody, India mein kya ye church mein, the Sunday. This also, brings me to another very important issue, sir. In this Sunday church services, what do they speak? As I told you, they all, ye sab nark mein, they all go to hell. They are इनको बोलो, ये दूध वाले को बोलो, ये सब्जी वाले को बोलो कि ये सब नरक में जाएंगे, सब इशू के नीचे आ जाए. Now tell me, sir, Galileo was
yeah,
driven to death just because he had spoken the truth, the scientific truth, that it
right,
is not the sun, it is the earth which revolves around the sun. Right,
correct,
sir?
correct.
Now, will the priest tell whether Galileo has gone to hell or these priests have gone to hell? Or if you read the history of Christianity or Islam for that matter, their best periods have been when they have abandoned their scriptures. That is how Protestantism came in, and that is how this Renaissance, or you can say that this European Renaissance or Christian Renaissance took place. The best period in Islam was between 8th to 10th century, when they totally abandoned the Quran. They got people from from Greece, all those books which they tried to burn. They tried to again gather those books. That is what happened, and that is the time when Pandit Kanak went from India with that book called Surya Siddhant. And I always tell people, in fact, it's a challenge um, throw to everybody, that whatever whatever you know whatever has been prescribed by Hinduism, whatever rituals that we have, please ask me. I'll give you a scientific reason for that. For
I'm
every small thing,
yes, I'm a
I
believer in that concept, sir. If I may add here, that science and technology supports Sanatan principles, natural laws. And do you think that the reason why our country, our faith is attacked so much is because people perceive the Sanatan principles and scientific and natural laws to eventually overcome the fear, the absence of fear and ignorance that exists because the way religion gets practiced today. Remember, I'm talking about the religion the way it gets practiced today. And I want to add here something. There is something that we need to do. I mean, the entire universal philosophy needs to do is to probably make the concept that conversion is a sin against God's original intent. If God wanted, as the ultimate magician and the ultimate creator, he could have made you and I into any other faith that he could have, but he made us who we are. So is conversion a sin against God's original intent? Why are we not?
absolutely, sir. And if I may quote Gandhi, what he wrote in Harijan on 30th January 1937, it is Gandhi says, and I quote, "It is impossible for me to reconcile myself to the idea of conversion after that style that goes on in India and elsewhere today. It's an error which is perhaps the greatest impediment to world's progress towards peace. Why should a Christian want to convert a Hindu to Christianity? Why should he not be satisfied if the Hindu is a good or godly man?"
Right,
Now,
right,
this is the answer.
right. So this is the answer. The question now is that in remaining 5 minutes that we have, I wanted to ask you and inquire from you actually is that the entire concept of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, you know, is it time for India to take its own stand rather than borrow the Western concept for its applications? Because Sanatan is always the most open, free, and a true democratic way of life. So, is it time for us to reevaluate our own institutions, take a tough stand, take a tough stand, ban conversion completely? Yes, for a moment it will create an international furor that India is no longer a democratically free country because we don't give freedom of religion. But I don't have to give freedom of religion because as an element because we are already free. It's like asking you and I to prove that we are men. We are men. I don't need to give a proof of that. So the question arises that what steps the current government must take to prevent this kind of a conversion the way it is happening. One is the free will. Tomorrow you go to church, tomorrow you go to mosque, as at your free will is a different issue. But as an institutional level, at the governmental level, what must we do now? We have 3 minutes more to go. Your thoughts on this? That's a critical thing.
The government must realize that the core of the civilization is Hindu, whatever you may call it, Hinduism or Hindu. This is the core of the core of the subcontinental civilization is Hindu. Just as Western civilization is Christianity, just as Islamic civilization is Islam, just as the Cynic civilization is, Chinese. This is the fact of life. The second issue is that recently the honorable Supreme Court judges they two of course it's always two bench judge bench. It said that we will take suo moto action if there is a hate speech, and told the police that you will take suo moto action, and if you don't take, we will be answerable, etc., etc. Now I want to tell the honorable judges that if this is applied in letter and spirit, let me tell you, all the churches in India will close and all the madrasas will call, and there will be no Friday prayers. Because on Friday and in the Sunday church services, nothing else but venom is spewed out by the Maulvis and the priests.
Right.
So this must stop. And look here, sir, as a student of geopolitics and international relations,
Right.
the West is in a pathetic condition, right, sir?
Right.
This is the time we need to assert ourselves. They said when you don't have money to warm yourselves up in Europe, how much can you sustain, this kind of missionary work? So this is the time, and thanks to the changing dynamics of geopolitics, India is a rich country, growing richer every day. It was always a rich country. It's only time it has taken time to recoup. They need you. So all these characters, they can what Swami Vivekananda. I will end by saying what Swami Vivekananda said in one of his angriest moods in Chicago. I think the year was 1893, and etc. And Vivekananda was born at a time when there was a concept of muscular Christianity.
Right.
That is the time when this YMCA, etc., had started coming up. This in pursuit of muscular. That is the time Vivekananda came in Chicago. In one of his speech, he said that and I quote, you train your people, you clothe your people, you feed your people to do what? To come to my country and rob my religion, which is my everything. An Indian exists for his religion. And then he said that if I was to pick up the entire mud that lies at the bottom of the Indian Ocean and throw it on your face, I would not be doing an infinitesimal part of insult to you, that what you have done to our civilization. We must realize this. This cannot be a hunting ground. You are, आप आत्माओं का शिकार कर रहे हैं. You are killing souls. And if the government allows the souls to be traded and killed, then in turn you are killing the soul of the Indian civilization.
The
So to
question now
show,
comes.
to
So the
save the
question now
soul of
comes.
India,
Yes. No, we are talking about the spiritual part of it, the soul of India. We care for the soul of India. The proselytizers don't, the invaders don't. So the question then comes back to what Swami Vivekananda said, and I'm a great follower of his: arise, awaken, assert. Those are the three A's that he gave, and to which I added my fourth A called act. So as I go back into the conversation, I use the phrase, knowing what we know now, what must the people do? Last 1 minute for that thought for you. What must people do at an individual level and at an institutional and collective level? The three stages on which people can act: individual, collective, and institutional basis. Where where does one need that support from? The governmental support is a must. Collective unity is a must, and an individual initiative is required. How do we go about it? In 1 minute, sir. Then after that, we will close the show today.
I think at an individual level, awareness, like the kind of program that you have done today, we have reached out to some people. We can, in simpler forms, we can even reach out to larger audience. And I've been trying to do that. These individual level, uh, we can always we can make them aware about what does loss of identity mean. One, two is that at a collective level, at a collective level, this is a democratic country. So is America. Let's put our collective strength to vote for only those candidates who can take up the crusade for anti-conversion or reconversion. Remember, the Videshi Mahila here had the Swami Jayanand Saraswati arrested just because that soul was trying to reconvert people back from Christianity. And under pressure from Pope, he was arrested. And then, of course, the charges came out to be all false. Now, this may I also tell these people that in India there are much finer souls than Mother Teresa and Graham States. They are much more kind. Nobody who came under the care of Mother Teresa died. Everybody who came under her care died a Christian. Do you know that? This is sinning at the worst. एक मरते हुए आदमी के भी आप सोल को हार्वेस्ट कर रहे हो. You are harvesting the souls of a dying person. There can be no greater sin than that. You have Baba Amte, son, carrying out vasectomy operations of the Maoists so that they can have a longer, career as a Maoist terrorist. This is the level. I'm amazed. Mother Teresa crusade, Mother Teresa road, aren't we kind-hearted people? Aren't there any philanthropists in India? What is this inferiority complex? And then this English language, sir, I told you, collectively you said this has to be. Firstly, as I said, English language has got nothing to do with science. Otherwise, Ramanujam would not have been such a great mathematician, or say C.V. Raman. It has got nothing to do with science. Sanatan has got everything to do with science.
That's right.
So collectively, as I said, that let's be aware, and this is one of my missions in my life, is to make people aware that everything, as I said earlier, in Sanatan is science. We don't believe in deception and duplicity and fraud and allurements.
Sir, thank you very much for coming today on the show. It is a very tricky subject. It's there. I mean, it's a very tricky subject, very emotional issue. People have their belief, people pursue their belief, and people who are stronger, they are able to impose their beliefs. And the question then arises is that how does the uprising happen? Like it is very important for us to save our own civilization. And people like us are exposed to the truth that goes on in the world around us. So I want to thank you very much for your such a powerful I would say deposition to the public of the world today. And I hope the people will understand this element, that there is an individual, collective, and institutional responsibility to, in my opinion, I personally feel that conversion is a sin against God's original intent. Because I have always believed that, if God wanted me to be other than who I am, it could have happened like a matter of magic, but it did not. So the question is that how do we push that agenda forward? We have to encourage humanism to come up, because after all, we are all humans. World over, we are all humans. All women all over the world take 9 months to deliver a biologically normal child. So the question is, how do we deliver that part? And is it time for us to take advantage of science and technology, as you very rightly said? And I agree with you. The Sanatan is all about natural laws, science, and technology. How do we take advantage of that? We will continue our dialogue, sir. And I'm very honored that you came. You are in Patna. I used to live in Patna. I'm a Bihari. So it's a wonderful feeling to see you and us in conversation today. Delighted to. And please come back again, because in the US itself, we need people to move from being woke to an awakened state of mind. Because unless that happens, change will not happen. So I want to thank you very much for joining us today
Thank
here.
you, sir.
And thank you very much for coming here. We will meet again. As I always say, Satyamev Jayate. The truth
Thank you.
must triumph. Thank you very much.